All right, welcome back. We are at the Be Prepared Expo 2022 at the Mountain America Expo Center in Sandy, Utah. This is Prepper Talk Radio, and I've got with me Isaiah from Sophos Survival, and he's got a booth here at the Expo, and he's got a store actually in my hometown. And we met a couple of, when I first moved in, one of the first things I wanted to do in my hometown was get to know who was the nearest prepper store, who had the best survival stuff. And his name and his store came up, and I definitely went down and checked it out, and we got to know each other a little bit. But it just so happens that he's here at the Expo as well, and his booth is doing some great things, and hopefully he's getting some good traction because he deserves it. But Isaiah, tell us a little bit about your store. You own Sophos Survival in Spanish Fork, Utah. And well, first of all, maybe tell us who you are a little bit, but then what is Sophos?
Okay. So the words, it actually leads into why I start, it all ties together.
Perfect.
So my name's Isaiah Price. I grew up in Springville, Utah, just right next door. The mountains were my backyard, right? So I grew up hunting, hiking, fishing, camping, scouting, just in the outdoors, and it's always been my thing. Like, I've just always loved that stuff. I've always loved gear, like good quality gear. I've always loved, for some reason, I've loved emergency preparedness, just being ready for stuff.
Yeah.
As far as a professional background, I started off when I was 16. I started flight lessons. I always wanted to be a pilot, so I started going to UVU. I took flight lessons. I flew professionally for about 15 years.
Wow.
And so,
wait a minute. You don't look 31. I just did the math.
No,
okay, all right,
I'm
go.
30.
You don't have to tell us.
Okay.
If you don't want to.
No, I'll tell you. I turned 36 this year.
Dang, all right.
So anyway, I've worked as a pilot, and as a pilot, you practice emergencies a lot. So it's part of your initial, primary training. You learn how to fly the airplane, you learn all the basics, but like on a recurring basis, we practice and practice and practice emergency procedures, particularly, so that when something goes wrong, which at some point something's going to go wrong, right? It might not be something totally catastrophic, but you're going to have something go wrong. Your navigational equipment's going to go out. Your electrical system's going to do something weird. You might lose an engine, something weird. And if you have never practiced that procedure, when it actually happens, you're going to be stressed out, you're going to panic, you're going to freak out, you're going to freeze and just stare at it. So I kind of wanted to take that mentality and mindset and that attitude and apply it towards our everyday life. So I started Sophos Survival back in 2015. I was working as a pilot. I was gone a lot. I was traveling, and I was all over the place. This store was just, this business was something I wanted to do for years. And I finally was like, all right, I'm going to take a leap. I'm just going to start it as a side gig, and then eventually I'd like this to be a full-time thing. So I did. I didn't know how to build a website. I didn't know how to start a business or anything, but I got on like YouTube and Google, and I'm like, how to start it. And
you can learn anything on YouTube.
I know, dude, it's awesome. So I did that. I started it, and then just, bit by bit, I'd create accounts with different companies, and the whole thing is based off of the quality products that I like to use, the things that I trust. I couldn't stand going into, I love going into preppers, like preparedness, going to expos, going into different stores. I love the outdoor gear stores. But I would always gather like bits and pieces, like, oh, I'd love to do that if I had my own store. I'd love to do that. And what I did with my own thing is I just combined all the things I loved with all the other stores and made it my own.
Nice.
So the goal is high quality stuff. Also training, teaching other people.
You can have the best gear in the world, but if you don't know how to use it,
exactly,
you're up a creek.
And so that leads into what is Sophos? What does the word Sophos mean? It means wisdom in Greek, which is the reason why I chose that. First of all, it sounded cool and it looked cool and stuff. Yeah. But Sophos means wisdom, and the thought is it kind of ties back to that aviation theme. It's where you practice and practice so that when the real thing happens, you're ready for it.
Yeah.
Well, gear and good quality gear is important. Supplies are important, but if you don't know how to use it, and you don't have the training and the knowledge and the wisdom behind it, a lot of times your gear can be kind of worthless.
Yeah.
Not completely, but like you're going to be much better prepared if you take those two aspects, those two things, and you tie them together. So that's what I'm trying to do with Sophos. We got good quality gear, but we're also doing training classes, and we're trying to teach people and get people mentally prepared.
So it sounds like your journey into the preparedness world started way back when you were a kid in scouts and growing up and doing all that stuff. Did your dad take you out camping a lot, or is it family stuff mostly? Or
my parents were never like super crazy into it. I had uncles that were like hunters and stuff. I'd love to go out with them. My mom, for some reason, she's always been into emergency preparedness, but we never did like I mean, we never went on like survival campouts or anything.
Sure.
Like that. But every year for Christmas, she'd give us emergency preparedness stuff. She'd give
That's
us
awesome.
radios, or she'd give us like 72-hour kits or first aid kits. My brothers were like, "Oh,
Not again."
cool, Mom, thanks." And I was like, "Yes, this is awesome." And I'd like collect my gear and I'd put together my kits, and I think that was part of why I, kind of like fed my love and desire for all this stuff. But
Isaiah has the psychosis. He has it. We
Yeah.
all have it. We're like a little bit psychotic when we're about preppers, aren't we?
Yep.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Like, so if you wanted to know what to get your kids for Christmas, 72-hour kits.
72-hour. Oh man! So our store is it's on Main Street in Spanish Fork, but especially at the holidays, I mean it's growing. We're continuously busy, but especially at the holidays, people are coming in looking for different gifts, and 72-hour kits are huge. First aid kits, knives, tools, solar stuff is really popular. These little like solar battery packs that you can carry around and charge your stuff up with. Like
That's nice.
it's all.
So, as an owner of a store that focuses on preparedness and survival, are you seeing an uptick in the general population around you, recognizing that we're in a situation where we need to be better prepared? Maybe they're like waking up finally and saying, we didn't realize until just recently we need to be ready. Are you seeing some of that?
Absolutely. So whenever anything weird or crazy happens in the world, like right now, for instance, we've got all this stuff going on in Ukraine and Russia, and anything political and civil unrest, whenever any of that stuff happens, we definitely see an uptick. And while we don't we don't get into the fear tactics, and we don't like try to like ride those waves and piggyback on top of that stuff. I do enjoy the fact that people are becoming more aware of the world we live in, right? So supply chain issues, like people, we call it the great toilet paper shortage of 2020, right? When like COVID and everything's happening, which by the way brought a lot of people in the store, and it was kind of a bit of a springboard for us, but it's just there again, like it's creating awareness of people that are realizing, okay, like I can't rely on the grocery stores necessarily for everything I need, so maybe I ought to be a little bit more ready for something when it happens. And so it's that kind of stuff that's helped us grow and get the word out there.
So if you were to kind of have somebody in front of you that was brand new, didn't really know much about preparedness or survival or whatnot, or what's going on in the world, and they just walk in, what kind of message do you give them to help them get started? What's that message?
Great question. So I get that all the time. Someone will walk in and they're like, I want to be ready, but I don't know the first thing. Like, I don't know what to do. Tell me what to do. So we tell people to start small, and my idea is that if you start small, like say, get yourself a 72-hour kit. 72-hour kit, 96-hour kit, bug-out bag, whatever you want to call it. Like, get yourself a kit together, and we have pre-made kits, or we have a checklist and say, hey, here's a list of all the stuff that you should have in your kit. Go home and gather all the things that you already have, check those things off, and then bring it in. We'll help you fill in the gaps. Some kind of a kit that would get you by for a few days. Then you want to start small with the other areas. So water storage, food storage, first aid, communication. Once you dial in those little things, like don't go huge. Don't say, oh, I'm going to go buy a 1-year supply of food storage. Like that's kind of extreme,
crazy,
right?
Yeah.
You could get there eventually, but I always tell people, start small. Get like a 1-week supply, 2-week supply, get a 30-day supply, and then get some water storage, and then get first aid. So visit all your categories, make sure you reach all the essential things, and then you can go and revisit each one of those, and you can expand from there.
Yeah.
But you want to be prepared in a variety of different ways, because we don't know what's going to happen. Like, what's ahead of us. Maybe we have this huge earthquake that we've heard about for a long time.
Finally happens.
Maybe that doesn't happen in our lifetimes. We don't know.
Yeah.
But maybe there's some kind of civil unrest. Maybe there's a war.
Which are more likely to happen, civil unrest. We saw that in certain parts of the country.
Yep.
Just recently, in the last couple of years, there's some serious civil unrest. So
Yeah.
I hope you guys are recognizing a theme with what Isaiah is saying. On our podcast, we talk about the rule of 3. You need 3 minutes of air, 3 days of water, 3 days of food, 3 days of water. I can't remember.
Yeah,
but
3 weeks for
3
food.
weeks for food. There we go.
Yeah.
So I got sidetracked with some of the stuff that's going on around here at the Expo, but the rules of 3 are what we talk about. So start with water, start with food, start with the things that you need right now, the gear, the equipment. Don't go crazy. Get something simple and easy, and then go from there. So I think that really ties into the name of your store, Sophos. That's a wise approach to doing it right.
Yep.
You can go out and spend thousands of dollars on crazy stuff. but you don't, if you get the wrong stuff, and then you still don't know how to use it, you're even worse off than if you got the right stuff and not know how to use it. But get the right stuff and know how to use it. I love that you're a pilot. That's super cool, because that's true. You got to have pilots, every time you take off, you can't take off until you've checked every single thing on that plane, right?
It's a very specific procedure. There's a very specific checklist. When accidents happen, typically it's because pilots are skipping their checklist, or they neglect certain things.
So Isaiah, share with me a little bit about somebody who's who's got a little bit of preparedness done. They've done some things. They're maybe an intermediate to headed towards advanced. What message would you give them?
All right, so I would tell somebody like that probably training, because the person at that point in the game probably has all the supplies and the gear that they need. You can always continuously play with that. You can refine your gear and your kits and your stuff, your supplies. You can expand that, but training and knowledge and practice. Go out and learn more about all aspects of survival that pertain to you. You might not need to know, how to survive off of edible plants out in the desert if you live in a mountainous area.
Yeah.
Because that's likely the place you're going to go. But maybe you want to study the things that have to do with you. Maybe you want to go out and get your ham radio license, and you want to get better at communication. Maybe you want to figure out your transportation piece of your emergency plan. Because if you already have your food and your water and your go bag and everything, well, expand on that and learn more. Because there's a saying that says the more you know, the less you need.
That's true.
And that's so true in a lot of cases, because you can improvise. You can figure things out as you go. You might not be as dependent on your stuff.
Because your gear might fail, or you might not have your gear. You get separated from your gear.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to do the same kind of stuff without your gear.
Exactly.
I mean, MacGyver could do anything with a duct tape and a safety pin.
That's right.
We need to be more like MacGyver.
That's right.
Right?
Yep.
For those of you who don't know who MacGyver is, look him up. I'm sure he's somewhere on YouTube.
You need to. Yeah.
Yeah, you need to know MacGyver. Any last minute wisdom or anything you want to share before we wrap up, Isaiah?
I'd say for one, thank you. This is awesome. But one of the things that we do as a business is we have tried focusing on that knowledge and wisdom and training aspect. So we've started teaching classes. We do over time. I'm going to do more and more online. I'm working on creating an app that has all these little training modules in there, and
That's cool.
You can subscribe to that, and you can get all this knowledge through that. But for now, we do in-person training classes and also on our social media channels and stuff. So if you want to connect with us.
Speaking of that, what are they? Tell us.
Yeah.
What's your website? What's your socials? What are you?
Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. I'll just search Sophos Survival. Our website, of course. Sophos is SOPHOS. And Survival, SURVIVAL.
.com. Awesome. Yep. Well, look forward to great things here. The rest, as we finish up the expo, we got a couple hours left of the expo, and we're excited to have an opportunity to sit down with Sophos Survival and learn more about what Isaiah's done and what he's doing. And if you are interested in knowing more about Isaiah and his store, his shop, Sophos Survival in Spanish Fork, Utah, there will be information in the description. There will be information for you to be able to connect with him and contact him. So thank you so much. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.